The 85mm lens is always being pushed as the perfect portrait lens. And I love it. Really, I do. That flattering compression, the buttery background blur, it's classic. I've loved this lens so much that the writing's worn off. But today, we're not talking about headshots or the eyes as the window to the soul. We're talking about portraits that breathe, portraits that feel a little more natural, intimate, and full of life. We're talking about the 35mm. This might just be the lens that changes the way you photograph people, and honestly, the way you see people too. I'll be real with you. I originally resisted shooting with the 35mm. I didn't want to get that close. I didn't want to disturb my subjects or interfere with the moment. Or maybe deep down, I just didn't want to be uncomfortable. I had this idea that every portrait needed to be flattering in the traditional sense. Perfect light, perfect angles, no distortion. But now I know that flattering can mean something different. It can mean real. It can mean raw. It can mean vulnerable. And it can mean being close enough to feel like you're part of the moment, not just documenting it from the outside. I'm Brenda Bergreen, a professional photographer and videographer, here with practical photography tips to help you learn, create, and elevate. Hit subscribe and let's get learning about 35mm portrait photography. So first, why the 35mm? Let's talk about why the 35mm might just become your go-to for storytelling portraits. This lens is indeed wider than a traditional portrait lens, but that's the magic. That's what we're going to use to our advantage to tell a larger story. The 35mm lens might not be the first one people grab for portraits, and that's exactly why I love it. It invites more creativity. It doesn't isolate, it connects. You're not just photographing a person, you're placing them in a moment, in a setting, in a story. And that story matters. It adds mood, it adds context, it adds depth, not just visually, but emotionally. Because the 35mm is closer to how we actually see with our eyes, it feels familiar, relatable. It brings your viewer into the scene. If you're interested in checking out wider focal lengths, check out my video on the Battle of the Wide Primes where I compare the 24, 28, and 35. But for now, let's talk about what the 35mm actually does to a portrait. When you look at an environmental portrait and compare it to a tight headshot, you immediately see a different look, feel, and even purpose. The 35mm will capture more of the surroundings and background, adding to the look and the mood of your image. Yes, it will result in some slight distortion, but that can be a good or bad thing depending on how you use it. And that's the key, learning how to use it. What we're doing here is showing people in a space, not just against a background. That messy kitchen, a symbol of a mother's hard work. That mountain range, a backdrop for adventure. That favorite chair in golden hour light, pure mood. The 35mm helps you capture not just the person, but their world. Let's talk about a few tips for shooting portraits with a 35mm. Number one is to get close. Despite your instincts for getting into someone's bubble or being afraid of that distortion, you want to get close. This is the biggest shift if you're coming from telephoto lenses. You need to get in there. Closeness is what creates connection. It makes your viewer feel like they're with your subject, not just looking at them. Number two is to watch your edges. You are going to want to watch the edges of the frame because that's where the unflattering distortion is going to come from. So learn when that distortion becomes too much or too weird. Keep faces and other important features towards the center if you want to avoid warping. But if you want to experiment, then use those edges creatively. Just be intentional. Number three, play with depth. Since we're looking for more storytelling, we want more foreground, background play. Use the foreground and the background to create more depth in your images. Look for ways to layer your image. A plant in the front, your subject in the middle, a glowing window in the back. It all adds interest and it all makes a portrait more than just a picture of a person. Number four is see the light. Since we can't hide, frame out, or control the background as much as with a tighter portrait lens, light becomes more important. You'll definitely want to look for beautiful window light, open shade, or better yet, shoot at golden hour. Light can guide your viewer's eye, shape your subject, and elevate the entire mood of the photo. Number five, Use the 35 for variety. The 35mm can be fun for everything from candid family sessions to travel portraits or couples and adventure settings. You can shoot close, you can shoot further, you can get a lot of variety out of this focal length, so use that variety. It's perfect for those real spontaneous moments, for movement, for storytelling. So use the variety of your 35mm lens. Next up, when should you actually shoot with the 35? We've already talked about some of these. Family and kids, think snuggles, chaos, and play. You're in the moment with them. Travel and adventure, place people in a wide landscape, show the environment, let it breathe. Use it for couples and lifestyle, less posed and more this is us. Street photography, you can capture people and their environment all at once, and it feels real and immediate. Also great for branding and creative work. Makers, artists, and creators in their element. The 35mm brings a documentary feel even to more styled shoots. If you feel like you struggle with your photos looking boring regardless of what lens you use, make sure you subscribe because in an upcoming video, I'll help you with that exact problem. So here's the thing. This lens is probably not going to be your go-to for formal headshots on a white backdrop, but shooting portraits with the 35mm might not only change the way you photograph people, it might change the way you see people. Shooting with the 35mm lens made me a better photographer, not because of angles or camera settings, but because it forced me to immerse myself in moments. I used to think flattering meant slim and sharp. Now I think it means honest and vulnerable. Don't get me wrong, sharpness is important, as you can see if you check out this video on the sharpest lenses you can buy, but you're not just capturing how someone looks, you're capturing how they feel in a moment, how they live, what surrounds them, what matters. So if you're curious to try the 35mm for portraits, go grab your lens, take a walk, and photograph someone just as they are. Let the surroundings be part of the story. Let the imperfections in. And if you want a full comparison between the 35, 50, and 85 for portraits or a breakdown on one of those focal lengths, let me know in the comments. I'd love to break it down. But next up, keep learning about this focal length by checking out my video on how to shoot with your 35mm lens. I'll see you over there.